But weren't you really the first known country music star to ever come out?
Yes, I was. Yes, I am.
And the fact that it happened as...
Let me caveat. Kristen Hall of Sugarland,
yes.
one of the founding members, was, and she wasn't, I'm not sure how long she was
arguably, no
with the band.
disrespect to her, I wouldn't call her a country music star herself.
She was in a
very successful.
But in terms of what the fans and the public, it was kind of those queer artists who had existed in whispers, and there were many, right?
Yeah.
But there was a governing on what the audience could know.
Right.
I was the first who had her name on my records and name on the side of my bus. Embarrassing as that was, Coca-Cola made me do that for that tour. But my name on the tickets, and I was the first to raise my hand and say, all the things you know about me, I am also a gay woman. I was the first to do that, to own that in that way.
And hard fought. Boy, hard fought. That whole path and journey for you, much of which even I, as your close friend, was not part of.
Yeah.
The way you the way you navigated so much of that time alone. Mm-hmm. And we all go through, then we look back and go, fuck, it could have been easier. Yeah. I could have called Richard, or I could have,
100%.
But you do, we walk the steps that we choose to walk. It just feels in 2025 like such a ridiculous conversation. Mm. Especially when you think that it wasn't really all that long ago.
Yeah.
And I'm also not saying that we've come so far and now there's none of that anymore.
Yeah.
If you got up and made that same speech tomorrow night at the Grand Ole Opry, there would still be people who would.
Right.
But I'm just fascinated because you're so articulate about it. I think about all the work that goes into becoming a successful recording artist and all the sacrifice. Living it, breathing it, eating it, sleeping it. I think about the stress and pressure that I experienced, having to come up with more material, having to deliver again, the wear and tear on the road.
Yep.
Thinking about album covers and photos and what my image is and and to do that. And when I think about how stressful that was for me, like all artists.
Yep.
And then I think about what it must have been like for you to do all of that and also hide your sexuality. And not just hide it, be so fearful that to be yourself, you would be punished.
And lose everything. Yeah. Number one, you are so right that we look back and I know I could have called you. I know I could have called my best friend Chuck. I know I could have shared this information with a number of people. And I also had a calculus that I knew people asked my friends about me. And I didn't want anyone to have to lie for me.
I get that.
Because you would have. I think you would have. And
I have for other friends.
Yeah.
There's no reason to think I wouldn't.
Yeah. And you, deep into our friendship, I'm sure, because I know, people would whisper to you, I think Shelley's gay. So I know it was on your radar. You never asked me, which was kind. Because I would have, big into lying, but I would have lied to you. And the lying, whether implicit or explicit, was a real tipping point for me. And one of the things that I realized, I'm not just keeping the truth from the light. There was a scenario in which someone asked me outright, "Are you gay?" And I felt very unsafe. And I said no. And that night I was like, I'm now an actual liar. And that was hard, really hard for me. But the pressure and stress of, the gift of the pressure and stress as an artist, the gift that is, I got to write a next record. I got to write great stuff like I did. What a freaking gift to have that pressure. So I want to note that, but I also want to say it was hard work. Yeah. I never disparage a musician, whether I like their sound or think that they're auto-tuned too much. I know what it takes to get on the record. I know what it takes to get a record deal, to get a record out there, to get a record up the charts, and to have...
It's a miracle every time.
It's a miracle. It's like 0.00019% of people get to do it.
And I don't know that the general public really understands that. It's funny, I was talking about this with John Cryer sitting here and relating it to the film. Yeah. And relating it to the film world as well. And we were talking about, do you know how fucking hard it is to have a hit anything?
Yeah.
The things that have to align.
Yeah.
At the perfect time. Yep. If one of those factors isn't involved, it makes all the difference. People don't really understand. They just think that hits happen. It's so fucking hard to have a hit anything.
It is, and they're not supposed to understand, much in the same way that everyone thinks that they can shoot the ball like LeBron James and Michael Jordan. It's magic.
Right.
It's literally magic. But actually what it is, it's reps. It's what you and Kenny G were talking about. Yeah. It's 10,000 hours, 50,000 hours writing the song. Like, how many crappy songs have we written to get to the good one? Right. Well, as evidenced by your hallway with the hardware. Anyway, so your question was, well, your remark was the pressure to become and be an artist, and with the pressure of hiding, and then I'll also say you have to be a business person.
Yeah.
The ones who didn't see it as the music business and just were like, I just show up when my manager tells me. Most of them didn't have long careers.
Correct.
So you and I took it on. We loved the business piece, and so I was a business person who had employees that worked for me, and I was their only job, and they had kids. And they had needs. And so I had that. I was an artist. And then my third full-time job was a hider. And, I was asked after I came out, how does that feel? Like, how relieved are you? I'm like, well, if you have a job as a janitor, a school teacher, and a nurse, and you get to quit one of those full-time jobs, pretty sweet.
Yeah.
You get a lot of free time. And I think about all the songs I didn't write.
Yes.
Because I was so stressed out. And and this is why I love your wife. When you guys got together and became Daisy and Richard, she pushed you to celebrate, like hang your stuff on the wall. Yeah. Celebrate your milestones. And you didn't do that before. No. In our long years of friendship. And I, as a closeted person, I miss so many great moments to just go, yeah, we did it. Yes. Because I had this black cloud following me around. And it was the more famous I got, the bigger the black cloud got, the bigger the stakes got.
The bigger the fear.
The bigger the fear. And the bigger, like, I used to have these fantasies when I was 19, 20, that when I get a record deal and when I'm on the Academy of Country Music Awards show and I receive an award, I'm going to receive it and say, I'm a gay person. And that sounds really great when you don't have employees and when you're just dreaming and you don't get it. But then by the time you have that first kind of smaller hit and then get lucky enough to sign to MCA Records after 2 failed records, and Tony Brown, the head of the label, signs you, and you've got this #1 record, and you've got all these people who are paying their kids' tuition. It gets trickier to say, I'm going to go up on that TV show stage and declare my gayness. And by the way, singing and writing and making records, I like to frame this for people who might be plumbers or attorneys or teachers.
Right.
How many of you, if you went to school to become a teacher and you're in your town and you've gotten tenure as a teacher, how many of you would say the thing that would cause you to never get to teach another class in your life? How many of you electricians, attorneys would voluntarily say the thing that would ensure that you never get to use that training again? The job that provides your mortgage, the job that provides your health insurance. It sounds easier than it is. Well, I've had people say, I wouldn't be able to lie like that. I would have
no idea.
They have no idea. And that, which is why, Richard, I wrote my book and why I allowed the documentarians to follow me around during my coming out process, because I wanted to make crystal. I could have gone to Twitter and tweeted, hey, y'all, I'm gay, or MySpace, whatever it was at the time. I could have done that. But you know that strategy is in my DNA. Everything is about strategy. Mm-hmm. And I did not want to just come out. I wanted to come out well, and I wanted to tell the whole story of what it's like to be a person of faith, a person salt of the earth, Midwestern roots, support the troops, love the Grand Ole Opry. Also, I have known I was gay since I was 9 years old.
Yeah.
And so it's pretty easy from people. There's a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking about how I came out, and even people who said, I don't really think she's gay. I think she's doing it for the money. What? I'm sorry.
I remember that. I remember we talked about that.
What money?
Yeah. Send it my way.
I even had...
If I did it for... Hey, here's my Venmo.
Hit me.
Here's my...
I even had, when I talked in my book and very publicly about almost ending my life.
I know.
And with a gun that my parents bought me for protection. I even had people that worked closely with me in Nashville that didn't like that I came out, that wrote to a bunch of journalists and people that she doesn't even own a gun. I mean, it's just the inability for people to say, damn, I kind of thought she was gay, but damn, she owned it.
Yeah.
Why was that so hard? And now I know why. And I'll stop in a second. But now I know why. It's because if you are part of a systemic institution that is historically and systemically otherizing or not inclusive, the minute you acknowledge that it is, it's somehow a referendum on what you didn't do to fix it. And then you have to do something about it. So it was easier for folks to say, oh, everybody knew she was gay. Well, the fans didn't. Now they do. And it was easy to say, well, she hadn't hit in a long time.
Oh, God.
That wasn't hard to do. It's hard to do. And it's hard for a teacher to do. And it's hard for an engineer to do. And I wouldn't change a single step of what I did and how I did it and what I said and how I owned it.
It was brilliant and beautiful, and yours, all yours.
It just gave me chills.
It was all yours. You owned it. You took it. You got to do with that what you had been prevented from for so long.